This is Gun and Butter, true crime stories told by your favorite cousin, Tyler G.
That's what it's all about. Guns and butter, baby. Little dumb motherfuckers.
Hey, family, and welcome back to Guns and Butter with your favorite cousin, Kinda G. Now, it's been a long week, and I missed y'all. I couldn't wait to be back at the dinner table sitting with my kinfolk telling y'all this good old juicy story that I have for y'all today. So with that being said, I hope y'all missed me too. Let's go ahead and get into this week's case. One thing that I will not deal with or tolerate from anyone is you being a liar. And I can't stand them folks that just be lying for a living. Like, I get it. Tell a little white lie here and there to save a life, nothing crazy. You know what I'm talking about. A little small lie and never hurt nobody. The type of liar I'm talking about is them habitual liars. They be out here lying for sport. Seriously, just lying for no reason. They didn't even have to be asked nothing. They just start lying out of nowhere. And when you confront them about their lies they told, you know you got to come correct. So you have a whole file, color-coded, everything is laid out in black and white for them to see that you know that they're caught in the lie. And they'll still look you dead in your face and say, that wasn't me. I ain't never said that. Bro, you crazy. In this week's lineup, we have one victim, 24-year-old Ty Underwood. Now, Ty was born October 24th, 1990 in Lufkin, Texas. She was employed as a nursing assistant at a retirement home, and she was also in college with the hopes of pursuing her nursing degree. She was loving and caring, and she really just enjoyed serving others. That was one of the reasons why she really wanted to go into nursing. Her friend says, Ty wasn't a person who was scared of anything. Ty wasn't fearful. So when it came down to the world accepting who she was, it was live life to the fullest every day, because you just never know. To give you guys a little bit of context on that quote, Ty was a transgender woman, and she was originally born Tyrone Underwood. But the way she moved through life was just really down to earth and free spirited. And she felt like you're going to love who you want to love, you're going to be with who you want to be with, and you're going to be who you are. So just live your life to the fullest. So I'm just going to go ahead and let y'all know that throughout the investigation, after the police figured out that Ty was biologically born a male, they stopped referring to her as she and her and started referring to Ty as Tyrone and him and he. Which is understandable, but I'm pretty sure while Ty was alive, she was going by the she, her pronouns and dressing like a female, so on and so forth. And we keep things simple over here at Guns and Butter, okay? So I'm going to do my very best to give you all the facts of this case, but to keep things simple, I'm just going to continue to call the victim by the she, her pronouns or by just Ty. On January 26, 2015, in Tyler, Texas, at around 2:36 a.m., the police received a phone call from a woman saying that her grandkids just woke her up, saying that they heard gunshots, and when she looked out of her window to see what it was, she seen a car up off the curb up against the light pole. The first officer on the scene is Officer Joshua Smidley. He sees exactly what the caller described on the phone. This car is ran up off the curb and up against the light pole. Now, it doesn't look like it slammed into the light pole. It looks like it just barely hit it and then the car just stopped. When he looks a little bit closer, he sees that the driver is an African-American female, unresponsive and slumped in her seat. So they hurry up and call EMS to the scene to see if they can revive the woman. So the police officer notices that usually in a typical car accident, the victim will most likely have blood coming from their head, their nose, or their mouth, or something on their face. But this victim had blood coming from her shoulder and her wrist and the passenger side of her body. Just really odd places to be bleeding from after an accident. So when EMS finally gets there, she is still unresponsive and they are unable to revive her, so they pronounce her dead on the scene. So they look a little bit closer and they see that this is no longer just a car accident. This is now a homicide. They see that she has gunshot wounds on the places where she's bleeding from, her shoulder and her wrist mostly. So they also notice that the victim's phone is still connected to the car stereo, literally still playing music. And they hurry up and collect the phone as evidence. They notice that there's one bullet hole coming from the back passenger door. But the victim has multiple shot wounds, so they assume that the killer was most likely standing outside of the car with the door open. They also notice that the car is pretty beat up. They see that the passenger side mirror is missing, and they can tell that she hit it a couple houses down on the brick mailbox. They find her hubcap down in a ditch, but they also notice about 100 yards to the west of where her car was, there's a couple 9mm shell casings. They're looking around at how beat up this car is and all the things that it hit, and they're like, dang, somebody has got to have seen or heard something. So they start knocking on the neighbors' doors to see if anybody just happened to see what happened to the victim and if anybody heard any gunshots or seen anybody running through the neighborhood looking suspicious. Anything they can get. Now remember, the accident took place at around 2:36 a.m. So they're knocking on folks' doors, and it's probably around 3 a.m. at this point. And folks, nobody's coming to the door because they're like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I am asleep. Catch me tomorrow. But they do end up speaking with the 911 caller again. She basically just tells them the same story that she did when she called the dispatch. She tells them that her grandkids woke her up and they said that they heard gunshots. She went to the window. She said, nosy neighbor, not I. She was looking through her bedroom window and all she said was there was a car ran up on the curb up against a light pole and she just wanted to make sure that the victim was okay. When they finished talking to the 911 caller, and I feel like they should have done this first, but they finally decided to run the tags of the 2011 Toyota Camry, and the registration comes back to a Tyrone Underwood. So it's at this time when it's almost like a light switch goes off for the officers, and I think it's pretty messed up that they're no longer calling Ty, she, and her when they ran the registration and figured out that it was Tyrone Underwood. They're now referring to Ty as him and he. And I just thought that was messed up. So they talked to the one witness that they could talk to, which was the 911 caller, and they collect all the evidence that they see on the crime scene, and they go ahead and wrap up for the night or early morning because it is probably going on 4 o'clock in the morning at this time. So sometime the next day, they get the autopsy report back, and they find out that Ty was shot in her right shoulder, the anterior left shoulder, the back of the right forearm, and the palm of her hand. They also said that they found 3 bullet holes in the vehicle instead of just that one that they initially see at the crime scene. And they said that the shooter was most likely outside of the vehicle. They look into Ty's background and they see her last known address. So when they get to the apartment, they're able to speak to her roommate. So they don't exactly know if the roommate has anything to do with Ty's murder, so they don't want to say too much. So they're trying to say just enough so that they can get the questions answered by the roommate without giving away that she is dead just yet. And Ty's roommate is also transgender. So they ask her if she knows where Ty is. And she's like, yeah, she's in class. And they're like, okay, so what kind of car does Ty drive? And she's like, a Toyota Camry. They say red. She says, yes, it's red. So it's at this time when they feel a little bit more comfortable and they feel confident that Ty's roommate had nothing to do with her murder, so they go ahead and tell her that Ty was murdered early in the morning. And she just breaks down. She's like, you have to be lying to me. Please tell me you're lying. Me and Ty have been best friends since the 2nd grade, and the only reason why she was out here in Tyler was because I begged her to leave our hometown. Oh my gosh, please tell me you're lying. So they want to know if her roommate is able to give them any information as to why Ty would be out that late at night, especially when she had to be up early the next day for class. So they ask her to get dressed and come down to the police station. So when she gets down there, they ask her, do you know why Ty would be down on 24th Street late last night? So she tells them that she was probably down on 24th Street visiting a friend at Texas College. She tells them that Ty was dating around, but nothing serious that she knew about. And then they start to get disrespectful. They're like, okay, so I'm pretty sure she's dating straight men. So when she goes to meet these men, do they know that she is a man? And Ty's roommate is like, of course. That's just something that we do personally. We always are honest and upfront about who we really are. Her roommate then tells the detectives a story about a friend they had a couple years back. She says, we had a friend a couple years ago who was also a transgender, and she was dating this guy who she either didn't tell that she was originally a man, or he just really didn't know. And some females that knew him ended up finding out that our friend was transgender, and they went and told this guy, and the guy got really upset, and he and a couple of friends followed our friend home and beat her with a crowbar and a baseball bat, and she was murdered. So me and Ty had a pact that we would always be upfront with the dudes that we deal with and let them know who we are up front, because it's too dangerous to be out here lying to people like that. They're like, okay, that's good to know. So they asked her roommate if she knows of any dealings Ty was having with anybody currently. And she's like, well, I only know about one guy, and his name is Carlton, and I just know that he goes to Texas College. She then says, I know that they've only been dealing with each other for about 2 weeks now. They met on POF. Now, my ass didn't know what POF was because I don't do dating sites. So I said, hey, Siri, what is POF? And she said, plenty of fish. I said, oh, okay, I got it. So she met this guy 2 weeks ago on POF, and she got a small glimpse of him when he came over to stay the night a couple nights ago. The detectives are like, okay, this is good. We can go off of this. They then ask her roommate if she has any more information that she thinks would be important for them to know. And she's like, if y'all can get into her phone, I promise you that will tell you everything you need to know. Please just get into her phone. And they're like, yeah, we working on it. So they question one more of Ty's friends, and the friend tells them that she's seen Ty just hours before she was murdered. Ty ended up texting this friend at around 11 o'clock asking for a favor, and the favor was to borrow $200. So the friend ended up agreeing to let Ty borrow the $200, and Ty agreed to meet her at her apartment so she can pick up the money. She says when she got there, she didn't ask any questions. She just gave her a hug, and she seemed pretty normal to her. So detectives start brainstorming. They're like, maybe she fell on hard times and she was late on her bills, or maybe she was owing somebody money, or she went to go meet up with somebody and they robbed her. What could she need this $200 for? Her friend is like, look, I didn't ask her what she needed the money for. I just knew that she needed it and I had it to give. So they continue on with the questioning, and they asked this friend if Ty had ever mentioned anyone particular in her life that she was dealing with. And she says, no, the only person I know about, she was talking to this guy down at Texas College, and I just know he plays football. The detectives are like, ooh, this is good. This is awesome. Look at us working. We're doing our jobs. Okay, so they put two and two together. The information that they gathered from Ty's roommate, which was she was dealing with somebody named Carlton down at Texas College. Then they get the information from her other friend that this guy played football at Texas College. So they go down to the school and they start looking for 21-year-old football player named Carlton Champion Jr. So when they find him, they bring him in for questioning, and they ask him if he knows a girl named Tyra. And he's like, Tyra. I used to have a text mate on Kick named Tyra. And we were supposed to meet last night, but she never texted me back. So I fell asleep. I was just driving in from Dallas from visiting family. And I got in around 9:30. So I was pretty much in my dorm after that. And I was tired. So I went to bed. And they're like, oh, okay, well, can we see your messages on your phone that tells us that you guys were supposed to meet last night and never did? And he's like, well, I would show y'all, but I actually just reset my phone. I had to delete a lot of stuff in order to open up some storage in my phone. So unfortunately, I can't show you at this time. And they do think it's a bit suspicious that he just so happened to reset and delete all the stuff off his phone, and he can show no proof that he was talking to Ty the night prior. It's suspicious, but it doesn't prove that he's a murderer. So they do remember that Ty's roommate told the detectives that she had seen a glimpse of him a couple nights ago because he stayed the night with Ty. So they asked him if he'd ever stayed the night. And he's like, nah, I ain't never done nothing like that. Nope, definitely wasn't me. And they're like, so you've never had sex with her? He says, no, never, not at all, not me. So it's at this time when they start to press him. They're like, so you got in from Dallas at 9:30 and you didn't leave after that. So if we pull the surveillance from your dorm, it's not going to show you leaving at any point after 9:30. And he says, yep, that's correct. I didn't leave until the next morning. So they hadn't mentioned this entire time that Ty was dead. So they finally share the information with Carlton that Ty was shot and killed early that morning. And he just sitting there looking dumb. The only thing he says is, damn, that's crazy. He never shows any real emotion, but he's like, wait, y'all think I did something? Oh, no. I got people that can vouch for me. I would never do nothing like that. And I'm just not that person. If I were to ever hurt or murder somebody, it would just eat up my conscience too much and I would turn myself in. They're like, okay, Carlton, well, if you're not that type of person, you would be okay giving us a DNA sample then, right? Because if you really didn't do anything, then that means you ain't got nothing to worry about. We found a whole lot of evidence in Ty's car, and if none of the DNA comes out to match yours, then you should be straight. They get his DNA sample, and at this time, they let him go. It's at this time when they want to verify Carlton's story by looking through Ty's phone. So they're like, we gotta think. How can we get into this phone? Because you know, on iPhones, if you put in the wrong password too many times, it'll lock you out. So they tried Ty's date of birth and they got in. They said, woo, we are on a roll today. They get into her phone and they see that she was texting somebody named Dalton Poward literally hours before she died. So they call the number and they tell the dude that they're investigating a case involving somebody named Ty Underwood. And he said, who? I don't know nobody by that name. They don't know if he's being truthful or not, so they ask if they can go over to his house and ask him some questions. When they get over to Dalton's house, they immediately show him a picture, and I don't know if they showed him Tyrone the male or Ty the female, because he's sitting there just lost in the sauce. He's like, do you have another picture? And they're like, forget the picture. Would there be any particular reason why Ty would be calling you or you would be calling Ty? And he's like, is there any possibility that I thought that this was a female at a point in time? And this guy's not dumb. I think that at some point he figures out that he's being questioned for a murder. And he asks him, is this person dead? And when they confirm that Ty is in fact dead, he seemed genuinely shocked. Like, damn, I'm sorry this happened to this person, but I ain't got nothing to do with it. He tells him that he met Ty on POF literally just last night. And they were supposed to meet up, but Ty stayed away in South Tyler. And when they were trying to meet up, it was already around 12 or 1 o'clock at night. And he was like, nah, I'm not driving all the way out to South Tyler. And she wasn't trying to come out my way. So it was pretty much like a dead end. It was going nowhere. And I didn't see the point in even keeping the app. So I ended up deleting it. So I don't have any proof that we were talking, but I can tell you that we were supposed to meet up and we never did. They like, damn. Carlton deleted his app. Now you deleted your app. Somebody got to be telling a lie. So they ask him if he can come down to the police station so that they can ask him some more questions. When they get down to the police station, they trying to trip him up. They're like, okay, so when you met up with Ty, and he cuts him off. He says, wait. I just told y'all back at the house we never met up. I told you that we had started making plans, but she lived too far and I wasn't coming out that late. I don't leave the house after a certain time and it was no point in leaving. So I cut off all communication. That was it. And I deleted the app because I'm thinking to myself, if this all that this app has to offer, then nah, I'm straight. I don't want to deal with it no more. Now, I personally would have believed him because I'm the type of person that if I download an app, for instance, I'd be downloading those apps that advertise for free meal planning and calorie tracking and all that good stuff. And then on top of that, they'll say they give you free workouts and stuff like that. And when I download the app and I get in there and start trying to do stuff, it be trying to charge me for everything that I want to do. So you know what I do? I delete that motherfucker. So I personally would have believed him because if he joined this app and they advertising, find the sexiest woman of your dreams and marry her next week, I'm pretty sure he got on that app and he said, what the fuck is this? And he deleted it. So call me a sucker, but I would have believed him. Anywho, okay, back to the story. They still think he's lying. They still think he's hiding stuff. So they're steady questioning him. And he's getting frustrated. Like, look, I'm ready to go. I ain't got nothing to hide. If it'll make y'all feel any better, I'll even take a lie detector test. And they're like, oh, will you? All right, let's do it. So he's like, come the hell on. I'm ready to go. So he takes a lie detector test and he passes. And they're like, oh, well, damn. We thought we had him. So he's no longer a suspect and he's let go. So they go back to the drawing board and they get back into her phone. They go back through all of her messages and her texting apps. And they see that on the Kick app, she was going back and forth with Carlton minutes before she was shot. So in these messages, Ty and Carlton are going back and forth because Carlton found out that Ty posted a picture of him on Facebook without his permission. So they're arguing, and Ty is like, "You're inconsistent. Damn, I wish I never met you, bro." And he like, "Well, I guess that's how it's gotta be then." So Ty's like, "Fuck it, I'm done with you." And then minutes later, she texts, "Nah, fuck that shit. I'm finna pull up on you. Meet me outside your dorm." And he's like, "Nah, meet me on 25th Street. Now, Ty was killed on 24th Street. So they like, this little nigga Carlton wasn't giving us all the information when he talking about if I did something, my conscience, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. So they head back to Texas College, armed with all this newfound evidence, ready to take Carlton down. When they get to his dorm room, he like, "Damn, y'all back again? Didn't I already tell y'all I didn't do nothing?" And they like, "Look, Carlton, you got two options. You can wait for us to finish preparing this search warrant, or you can give us verbal consent to come in and search your dorm. But either way, your dorm is getting searched." And he's like, "I'ma just wait for y'all to get the search warrant." And they like, "Say less. The officer's almost done typing it. You ain't saying nothing but a word." So they finally get the search warrant. As they're searching his room, Carlton and the detective are going back and forth. He's like, "Man, I wish y'all do y'all fucking job. I'm not the one who did it. Y'all need to be out there looking for the real killer. It wasn't me." So they ask him again. They say, "So you never met up with Ty?" He said, "Like I told y'all yesterday, no, I never met up with this dude." And the detective is literally reading word for word messages that Carlton sent to Ty. And he's like, "So you never told Ty to meet you on 25th Street? And he's like, "No, I never said that." He starts telling them the same story that he told yesterday when he was like, "I was tired just getting in from Dallas. We were supposed to meet up, but we never did." They like, "Yep, sure you did, Carlton. Now, what were you wearing yesterday when you drove in from Dallas?" So he points out a pair of jeans, a t-shirt, and the shoes he was wearing last night. Now, no cap, them shoelaces did look like they had some blood splatter on them. But who am I, a blood splatter analyst or something? So they collect his belongings of the clothes that he was wearing the night when he said he supposedly didn't meet Ty. And they send it off to the lab to be tested. Him and the detective are now at this point going toe to toe. And he's really trying to come off like he's offended that they're accusing him. He's like, "How dare you accuse me of doing something like this? How dare you?" So they like, "Dude, Carlton, give it up. We didn't already went through all of you and Ty's text conversation and seen what y'all was talking about. So yesterday, we didn't know as much as we do today. And we have just enough evidence to bring you down and question you some more. So bring your monkey ass on." While they're finishing up searching his room and collecting all the evidence that they can, they end up getting the surveillance back from his dorm. And the surveillance videos show him leaving out his dorm at about 2:13 a.m. and returning just 20 minutes later. And if y'all remember, the police call was placed at about 2:36 a.m. So you know what that tells me? That tells me that this little nigga was hauling ass to get back to his dorm room. Now, me personally, if I had just been caught in a big ass lie and a murder charge like this, just caught red-handed, I would have been ready to shit a brick. I would have said, "You know what? Okay, y'all got me. Here's what happened." Because at some point, you gotta remember all the lies you be telling. And I'm just not good. I'd be like, "What did I say? What did I say?" Forget it. Just fuck it. I'm caught. But no, not Carlton. He is literally the definition of that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So they bring him down to the police station and begin his questioning. They start reading back the text conversation word for word. Literally, they have the phone in hand and they're reading it to him dead to his face. They read off his little username and everything. And he's sitting there smirking. He like, "That ain't me. I ain't never sent that message." And then they read a message from Ty talking about, "I'm bored. Send me a picture." And he sends a picture back. And he busts out laughing, and you wouldn't believe what he said. He said, "Folks make fake profiles all the time. That ain't me." So this dude really is sitting there like it's a game, like he finna get off. He like, "Y'all, I'm hungry. Can I get some Whataburger, McDonald's, Burger King, something? Just bring me some food. I'm starving." He just being real nonchalant and carefree. He's like, "Bruh, y'all still ain't proving shit. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Let me go." So they present Carlton with all of the evidence, all the text messages that they currently have, and they give him every opportunity to tell his side of the story. And he still doesn't confess or tell his side of the story. But technically, they still don't have the evidence that puts the nail in the coffin, which is placing him at the scene of the crime. or of course, finding the murder weapon. But he did have an outstanding warrant, so they went ahead and arrested him on that charge and they held him at the county jail. Later on that day, they ended up getting his DNA sample back from the lab. And this is the DNA sample that they needed to connect him to the scene of the crime. Okay, cool. They found his DNA in the car, but to me, that DNA doesn't really let you know when it was left in the car. It could have been there days prior or whatever. But I'm gonna just leave that there for y'all to ponder on, okay? So they yank his ass back into the police station. When he gets into the interrogation room, they said, Carlton, you know what this means? And he's singing a new tune now. He said, I'm finna go to prison for the rest of my life, huh? They said, you show in the hell is, Carlton. And at this time, he is finally placed under arrest. He was charged with first-degree murder and he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole, which he will be eligible for in 2045. Sheesh! That's a long time away, Carlton. And Carlton is telling any and everybody that will listen that he will one day be back on the streets. He is surely confident. So, cousins, y'all already knew that the very first chance Carlton got, he was going to skip his happy ass in that courtroom and file to appeal his conviction. And on August 24th, 2016, just 8 months after he was found guilty, he files his very first appeal. So to give you a little bit of context on his appeal, when he's sitting in prison awaiting his trial originally, he meets this dude named Ladarius Harris. And Ladarius is pretty much trying to get him caught up and get him to confess. So he comes up to him and he's like, hey, is you that dude that everybody's talking about murdered that transgender dude? And he's like, yeah, that's what they say. But, you know, they ain't got no real evidence against me. It's all circumstantial. So Ladarius is like, did you really do it, dude? And Carlton says, yeah, you know, we had some problems. And that's all he really says. But Ladarius takes his information and runs with it. He tells the detectives that Carlton confessed the murder to him and that, yes, he would be absolutely willing to testify against him in court. So in this appeal, he argues that his confession to Ladarius was not sufficiently corroborated. The appeal goes on to state that without Ladarius's testimony, the verdict cannot be supported because 1, no blood was found in his clothing, 2, no weapon was ever recovered, 3, the record does not show when his DNA was left in Ty's vehicle. See, that's exactly what I told y'all. 4, no fingerprints or physical evidence placed him at the crime scene. 5, he could not have completed the murder in the 15 minutes that he was gone from his dorm room. And 6, Ty was communicating with another dude with the last name of Thomas the night she was killed, who also lived near the crime scene. So to sum that all up, Carlton is basically saying that the record is insufficient to support the jury's findings that he himself is specifically connected to the actual commission of the offense. I mean, hell, that was a good appeal. I gotta agree with some of the points. There was no fingerprints or physical evidence that placed him at the scene of the crime. The DNA that was found, you technically can't tell when it was left in the vehicle. There was also no blood on his clothing. And last, but certainly not least, a murder weapon was never recovered. All right, Carlton, I'll give you those points. They were pretty solid. If I were the judge, I probably would have taken a second look at this case, but I'm not, and his appeal was denied. And that's gonna have to do it, y'all. That just about concludes my case on Ty Underwood and her murderer, Carlton Champion. Y'all already know what time it is, family. I'm about to give you my take on what I think happened in this week's case.
You know the problem with you little niggas? You think you know everything about the damn world, and you don't know shit.
Okay, so Ty was out running the streets late the night that she was murdered, and I think she was just trying to link up with somebody. She was trying to get them rocks off. She was trying to knock them boots, okay? So she on POF, she hitting up all her little usuals or finding some new friends that she can link up with, and she's hitting a dead end every time she trying to hit up somebody. So she hits up Carlton, you know, her little old thing, even though he gets on her nerves and he been real inconsistent. She wants the relationship to be a little bit more than what it is, but he clearly doesn't want that. So she been telling herself not to fuck with him. But you know how we be, a little weak sometimes. So she hits him up anyways. And he's like, nah, girl, I ain't fucking with you no more. I seen that you posted a picture of me on Facebook, and I thought I would be able to be cool with you being a dude, but I'm just not okay with it no more. You know, Carlton, he plays on a football team. He's supposed to be real hard, real tough, and he don't want to get around that he messing with a transgender girl. So she's like, I'm done fucking with you. And he like, yeah, whatever, do you. And she like, nah, fuck it, I'm finna pull up on you. He's like, meet me on 25th Street. So when they link up, they get to arguing, and he like, I never told you you can post me on Facebook. I never told you to do that. And she's like, just calm down. Just calm down. I clearly was just reading the situation wrong. And he's like, fuck that shit. So he mad. He like, if shit gets out that I'm fucking with you, it's going to be the end of me. I don't want people to know that shit about me. And she like, I don't even move like that. I'm not going to tell your business. And he like, whatever. So at this point, he's just really embarrassed. He doesn't want word getting around that he's messing with this transgender woman. And he pulls out the gun. She sees the gun and she immediately starts taking off in the car. And he's just firing into the car. He ends up firing 4 shots into the car. She's swerving through the neighborhood trying to get away from him. And she ultimately dies instantly. And that is pretty much what I think happens in this week's case. I think the motive behind Ty's murder was pure embarrassment. Carlton didn't want to stand in his truth. Carlton was angry that there was a possibility that he could be found out. So he said, not today, Satan. My secret gotta die with her. Now, this information that I'm about to tell y'all technically is not factual. So don't be out here gossiping, spreading what I tell y'all, okay? So I heard that prison really isn't a bad place for low down men. Now, that's just what I heard. So don't be out here running y'all's mouth talking about, kinda G said. I'ma lie just like Carlton did. That wasn't me, and I ain't never said nothing like that.